Hi Year 10s, today I'm going to take you through a sample paragraph. So this is a paragraph that someone has written for a text response essay on mouse, and I'm going to unpack it for you and show you why this is a good example of a paragraph for a text response essay. So we know that we need to use the meal structure, so this is what I'm going to be looking out for. So message statement, evidence, analysis, and link. They're the things that I need to be seeing in this paragraph to make it a good one. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to look for is the message statement, and we can see that that is right at the start here. Spiegelman contends that while a common way of dealing with trauma and anxiety is to try to forget. All right, so what is it about this statement that makes it a good one? So the first thing I'm noticing is that they've used the author's name. Oops. That's really an important feature in a message statement. We do want to use the author's name. We also might want to try and get the title of their text in there as well, but always the author's name. The second thing I notice is the word contends. This is an analytical verb. And this is the key part of a message statement. You can't have a statement which tells us what the message of the text is without using the author's name and using an analytical verb, because they're the things that kind of give us the clue that we are talking about a message in the text. The other thing that is good about this is that it doesn't include any evidence, such as quotes or characters. It only deals with ideas and messages. So that's what we're looking for in a message statement. You should try and follow the same sort of structure in yours when you're writing your own. Okay, the next sentence. Vladek is depicted as someone who, while he does not explicitly suppress his past, tries not to think about it. This may be seen as an effective short-term solution, but it has deep repercussions. Okay, so we've got a few statements here. We've got the statement about Vladek, so that he is depicted as someone who doesn't suppress his past necessarily, but he tries not to think about it. So he's not doing it on purpose, but he does try not to think about it. And then we've also got the statement that it has deep repercussions. So there are big consequences, basically, is what this is saying. So this section here, this is an explanation of how the character of Vladek is relevant to what we're saying about a way of dealing with trauma and anxiety is to try and forget. So we can see that we're going to be discussing Vladek because he's a character in the text who does those things. He tries to forget as a way of dealing with his trauma. Oops. So Vladek is introduced as a character who he's introduced as a character who supports this statement. Now what we've got is a quote. So once he finds the comic Prisoner in the Hell Planet, he states to Spiegelman that it brought in my mind so much memories of Anya. So here we've got the evidence. I've got the quote. Okay, Vladek's early refusal to communicate with Spiegelman about the past limits their ability to understand each other. All right, so now we've got an analysis of what's going on here. So this is where it tells us what this actually means for the characters. What does this actually do? So that's the analysis. The next thing I notice is similarly. So this is a linking word. Okay, so this is the part of meal, because we've actually got two examples in there. This word similarly does the L part of meal for that first section. Okay, so similarly, Spiegelman himself tries to forget his past, or at least ignore one aspect of it. All right, so here we've got, it's not really a new message statement, because we're still talking about the same message, but we've got a second character who shows the same thing, who proves the message statement. So we've got a second character who supports the message statement. Great, okay. The comic is told explicitly from his perspective and refuses to let others' points of view intrude, notably Vladek's. Vladek's actions are only seen through Spiegelman's misery. Okay, so this is kind of an explanation of how the quote that we're about to read is kind of relevant. So this is a little bit of analysis, because we're interpreting how Spiegelman is presenting the text. We're interpreting that in a certain way. So that's analysis. Spiegelman's misery. Then we have shown when Vladek throws himself on top of the coffin and Spiegelman draws himself as the centre of attention in the panel. Now, this is interesting because it's not a quote, but this is evidence, okay? Because we're talking about visual evidence here, so we can't quote it. What we can do is describe it, though. So this is our evidence for this section of the analysis. And then finally, we've got from this, the reader is left with a sense that refusing to deal with the past is ultimately harmful and selfish. Okay, I'm going to put this the same colour as the message statement, because this is where the message statement is kind of summed up. So this is the link back to the message statement. Okay, and then from this, that's a really important kind of connecting phrase. Which links the idea that refusing to deal with the past is ultimately harmful and selfish. Then we've got the same kind of ideas, refusing to deal with the past, which is forgetting. This phrase from this links it to what we've just said about the text and the characters. So that kind of gives you an idea of the structure that we're looking for and the sort of analysis that we expect to see in a text response paragraph. In your text response essay, you will do this structure probably 3 times is what we're aiming for. You might do it 4 times if you've got a lot to discuss. But try and stick to this sort of structure. You'll notice as well that it does go out of, it's not always MEAL, it does go a little bit out of order, and that's okay too. You can play around with it as long as all of those elements are in all of your paragraphs.